Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and possibly good night, depending on where you are. Welcome to this video, and this video, or the topic of this video, is the library books I took out this week. Now, I did an earlier video about the books I took out that week, and I had a look at it, and it is pretty basic. I think I could have gone a little bit more about what the books were and whatnot. So what books did I take out? Well, I took these books out from my local library. There's somebody honking their horn out there. I don't know if you picked that up, but never mind. I took out these books from my local library, and I really do think it's important that we all support our local library as a resource, because not only can you borrow books there, many libraries have computers which you can use if you don't have access to the internet at home. It's a great place to study. You can ask librarians questions, and now I know quite a few local authorities or local government authorities, you can put in your forms or get forms for specific things like bus passes. I think also some places you can book assistance with certain form filling. Also BookBug. If you've got young children, often there's like a nice little play area, and they do also have a number of events, so it's a great place to have. And unfortunately, the way things are, library budgets and libraries are closing or reducing their hours, and I think one of the things which we can help to stop that, or at least slow that process, is by using the library more. And one thing which I think is really important about libraries, most of us get our books now online, and I think the art of browsing has kind of been lost, because I remember growing up, you'd go to a bookshop and you'd browse the shelves, and something might completely random catch your eye, and you'd take it out, and that book could like really blow your mind. And when you're doing online shopping, it's very specific, and often, I don't know what the technical term is, but I rarely, if ever, find these happy accidents where I find a book which a genre or an area which I wasn't even thinking about, and yet I've really liked. Instead, I think the machine kind of feeds you the kind of stuff it knows you like, so the result is you get that kind of narrow focus. So libraries, bottom line, they're brilliant. So what did I take out this week? Well, first off, I got this book. I don't know if it appears. There we go. Poems for a World Gone to SH something T. This is just a selection of poems, and some hit, some miss, but it's nice and it's easy to pick up. And dare I say, I find particularly when you've got young children, you can't really get into a lot of things. And I read this actually I've just finished this on the school run, because while they were playing in the park, I could pick it up, and short-term attention, but some of the poems made me smile. Some of them kind of reinforced my rather pessimistic worldview. I like these anthologies. I like these kind of, because once again, sometimes you come across something or a poet that you'd not encountered before. Didn't happen in this one, but I still enjoyed it. I kind of think of these kind of books like a mental or a cultural sorbet. They kind of clear the palate. So I'll put the details of the books in the description below, so I hope that helps. Anyway, that's what I took out. The second one is just one of these. Let's see if we can hold it up. Can you see it? There we go. It's British Politics, a very short introduction. It's written by a politician, so take from that what you will. One of the reasons I picked this up was because I used to be interested in politics when I was younger, and then I kind of found politics and political discussion kind of it really failed to inspire me, and I think like a lot of people, I became quite jaded with the whole thing, and I've got a renewed interest in it, but I still have some issues. But I found this quite good to sort of get back into what it is, and one of the things is when it comes to politics, just like a lot of things which affect our lives quite directly, we tend to have our own kind of assumptions. So this was quite good to actually go, well, this is what is working, this is the structure, this is what's happened in the past. I mean, it's this edition or this book is a little bit dated. So it might have something a bit more modern might have been more helpful. But I mean, I found it quite interesting, and it kind of I think I've now got the bedrock to sort of explore and research more. I hate using the word nowadays. Everybody says research as a kind of accusation. Do your research, but just read books. Go to the library. That's what I'm saying. Okay, book number 3. Now here we go. Now let's see. It's a bit dusty. Ooh, there we go. Can we see it? East Lothian Murder Chronicles. Not so long ago, I think some artist or cartoonist did some drawings about East Lothian, and I think also somebody did some drawings showing some of the arrests which were on record during the Victorian times. If I can find out what those were, I will put the description. But I only saw them actually in the council offices, so it could be one of those things where somebody got money to spend it on and then ended up decorating council offices. But anyway, I find this really interesting because it kind of gives little snapshots of places, because I live in East Lothian, and I mean, that's one of the things which I think which is quite amazing is when you live in a place, you kind of see it in the now, and you kind of tend to forget all the backstories, the lives, and the struggles, and it kind of brought in these nice little stories about tragedy. After all, it is Murder Chronicles. It's not happy romances. Although sadly, I think that's human nature. I don't think we chronicle happy romances. Edna found the love of her life in the park. Instead, we'll go, Mr. Smith murdered his neighbor on the corner. That's the sort of thing which unfortunately tends to get recorded. But it's a nice little sort of exploration of crime and of the stories and the areas where I live, and I'm sure there's books where you live which has similar dark histories. And once again, it's quite easy to pick up and drop down. I am a parent. You can probably see from my haggard face. You would never guess that I was 23. No, I'm not 23, but I didn't have white hair before the children. So, but so it's a good book. Read it if you've if you're interested in the murders of East Lothian. But I like it, and I think if I like history, but if you're not a big fan of history, I think you'll still like these kind of stories. Once again, unfortunately, Netflix is full of all these murder stuff. Maybe I'm fooling myself by kind of reading this and just saying, "Oh, this is history," rather than purient entertainment. But I still liked it. That's 3 books. The 4th book, is, can we see this? Can it show up? There we go. What's the worst that can happen? well, this literally is an example of I was browsing and the title grabbed me, and I was like, "Whoa!" And then, well, I read the back, and I thought, "Oh, okay, that's it." And then I read a little bit in the middle. My wife actually says that's a spoiler. You shouldn't read a little bit, but I always like to go, okay, that's. I can't say I like it, but I can't say I dislike it. It's what I expected. It's a book about well, it's a first off, it's the author or the protagonist is somebody who's experienced trauma growing up, and the alienation and the struggle that can have as they go through life. Now, the flip side of this is, and it says it quite clearly, this person's spirit animal or spirit guide contacted them and told them they needed to write the book. So when I said I don't like it but I don't hate it, is that I actually think it's well written, and it's lucidly written, and it's interesting. So I enjoyed that, and the fact that one of the things which with the community things I'm doing training and research into trauma, and so I found that interesting on that regard. But this book is, I would say, quite quixotic. It kind of ups and downs. It kind of jumps about. A lot of the time, I wasn't quite sure where we were going. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I've written kind of I've read weird sort of streams of consciousness novels or poetry before. But it's a little bit like, I don't know. It's hard to put into words. I just kind of felt it kept on chopping and changing and going backwards and forwards. And although the narrative was, it wasn't disjointed, I found I myself was becoming disjointed, because there comes a point where you're kind of going, there's too many plates spinning here. I can't seem to see where we're going. I'm kind of getting lost in this. So I would say interesting, but not wholly enjoyable. But I am glad I read it, and I have to say the title, What's the Worst Thing That Can Happen, is an amazing title. And also, I think it's great when you get people, non-standard people, for want of a better word, giving them, because the fact is, the people who normally get published, the people who tend to get statues or galleries dedicated to them, tend to be the ones who are acceptable to the status quo. They're the ones who are able to access. And there's a lot of outsider art. There's a lot of stuff out there, counterculture stuff, which I think there were probably examples through time immemorial, but because they didn't have an acceptable voice, they tended to be ignored or deleted. So I think it's great that that he's able to write this, and I believe actually he's written other things as well. So I'm really on the fence on this, and it's an uncomfortable position to be, because I kind of got into it, and then I kind of fell out of it, and then I kind of got back into it. So but I'm glad I picked this up. So once again, browsing books, you can't lose. Unless, of course, a bookcase falls on you, which has actually happened to me twice. But not in a library, only at home. Libraries are safe places. And finally, get that. Yay! John Muir, who I always think looks a little bit like my father-in-law, except my father-in-law is bald, and well, actually, John Muir, balding. But anyway, this is his spiritual writings. Now, it was quite by accident that I picked up a book by a psychic, and then I ended up. I have read. I didn't know about John Muir, and because I went to an American school, I went to an Australian school as well. I've been to lots of schools, and one of the things was Yosemite, and so I knew his story from that perspective, and also the fact that he was quite technically minded. There's actually a really wonderful museum in Dunbar where he was born. Really have to recommend it if you're ever in that neck of the woods. Check it out. I actually might put a link in the description just so you know. Also, we link to John Muir because he's a really interesting person. But I'd only seen him from the two bits. One is about national parks and the love of nature in a kind of a policy way. And then I'd come across him, in the as a technical character. But I found I'm in the process of reading this. But I found the fact that there is a kind of what would you call it? Soul, spiritual. I find that term spiritual is overused. But I think a profound truth. I mean, there are truths, and then there's profound truth, and I felt that there's a profound truth in this, which I didn't get from the sort of potted histories of John Muir. So I'm enjoying this. And once again, dare I say, it's an easy read. It's something that you can pick up and put down because there's various extracts from his writing, and they're sort of put together in chapters, so I'm able to absorb it that way. Maybe in future years, when the children are a bit older, I'll be able to sit down with a more technical or academic book. But given my circumstances, these are the kind of books I choose. So I hope you enjoyed that selection. That's just me sort of babbling about the books I took out of the library, but I just wanted to express, use the library. If you've got a library near you, use it. You can just go in. They've got leaflets and things. If you're a tourist, talk to the librarian. That's what they're there for. Just show your support, because I think I had heard, this was a few years ago, people saying, oh, libraries are dead now, you can get everything online. But I think we still, as human beings, need a space to go to. And I think it's an amazing physical resource, both for the individual, if you want books, or you want to study, you want to find something out, for the community, because many libraries, as I said, they have book bug, or they have a book reading, or they might have a guest author, Lego club, coding club. They have all sorts of things. So let's keep using it and show the powers that be that we still find libraries important, because there's lots of places in the world where there was this great flourishing of libraries, and then suddenly they've closed and they've become insular, and then it's very easy for a politician to say, well, we why waste the budget on that when we can do something else with it, which let's be part of the dialogue and say, well, actually we need libraries because we need libraries. Anyway, I hope that wasn't too ranty there. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll just wish you a good day or good night. Thank you. Bye bye.